Hey folks, 59 Perlen here, and in this video I want to talk about my latest track. The track is titled Dein Freund, and I want to go through the track, how I made the melodies, which gear I used, and the workflow behind. So, if you haven't listened to the track, I'm going to link it in the corner here. As I said, the track is titled Die Zeit, Dein Freund, because it contains a sample of myself. But first of all, I want to go through the gear. So what did I use for this track? First of all, the bass is my electron analog rhythm. The analog rhythm plays the kick drum, as in all of my latest tracks. It plays the bass sound. I have two bass sounds. There's a second one coming from the digitone that it plays more in the mid-range. And I have some percussion sounds on it. And the pattern sounds like this. So that's pretty basic. Let me make this a little louder. Okay, then I have some hi-hats going on. There's an accent at the end of the pattern. And I have two toms. And there is a swing in this pattern. I think the swing is around 55% or something. That's my typical swing factor on the tracks. So this is everything on the analog rhythm. The main focus in this track is clearly on the Vermona performer, and that is why I didn't focus so much on the rest of the track. So if you have maybe seen some of my previous analog rhythm performances, you know that I did a lot with the performance mode and the scenes and performing pads and stuff. For this track, the drum section is very basic, so that is actually it. But there is some more coming from my biggest friend, the digitone. And the digitakt, sorry. Oh my god. And the digitakt delivers some extra sounds on top. And there is, of course, the name-giving sample, which is super basic. And there is a delay on it. The delay comes from the digitakt.
Dein Freund.
And there are some crackles and typical 59 Perlen sounds going on. There is also a sound of one of my sample packs. The sample pack is titled Sounds from the Wrist. And I formed a second layer of heads on top. It's pretty subtle. And it feels a little bit to me like a clock ticking or something. That is why I really liked this. I have some more sounds on it. And all of these have this very tight delay. Also, there is a snare going on, this one, which is actually not really a snare, but it's also using my own samples. So all of the sounds coming from the digitakt is more or less taken from my sample packs, except this open hi-hat on top of the other hats, which I use to complement some sections of the track. So this is digitakt. There are no external effects or something. I only added some reverb to these tracks, but not so much because there's tons of reverb coming from the Vermona. But before I go on that, there's another guy playing, and that is the digitone. Digitone plays a second bass on top. So the low-end bass is this one, which I formed using the synthesizer engine of the analog rhythm. And the second ones are, I have to turn this off. Sorry. It's a very basic ARP that I use in different pitches, but with the same note. And that's everything coming from the Digitone. It's the same sound using on 2 tracks with different settings. So that gives a little percussive feeling. And also the percussions that I explained earlier coming from the analog rhythm, they are playing the same rhythm or the same accents of these ARPs. So they get a nice groove together with the kick. Okay, so that is Digitone, Digitakt, analog rhythm. There is one more playing, and that is, before I come to the Vermona, that is the peak. The peak is playing only a second roll on this. There's a pad sound coming here and there that I use to fill some breaks, and this this sound is super basic. It's a preset I found, and I didn't tweak it so much, and it's just playing minor chord. Let me show you that one, and I modulate it using the filter knob. And that's basically it. So the whole setup is controlled by the pyramid, and it's a super simple progression. There are no sequences, there are only 4 tracks, and the pyramid controls the transport and the clock of the electron machines, and also sequencing the other synthesizers. So that means the whole track, it's running 10 minutes or so, is created with those super basic elements. I was thinking of adding some more complexity, but I don't know, it just worked like this. So keep it simple, don't add too much to it. And yeah, I think it works from time to time, because the track really lives from the sounds coming from the performer. And what I like is that I have this basic sound that is full of ambiences and super rich in harmonics. And there are some notes kicking out here and there, or there are some melodic parts that catches your attention by opening a filter. And I only opened the filter in this one. I didn't even touch any of the other knobs, which I actually planned to do, but I didn't. So there's a lot of stuff that can add or that can catch your attention, and that is what I wanted to achieve with this track, to have something relaxed, but also something surprising. And I think it works very well with the synth parts. And now let's talk about the Vermona. The main melody, it's an ARP. And this melody, I have to be honest, I'm a lazy guy. And that is a little tip. If you don't know where to get your melodies, I have some MIDI libraries with little melodic parts or clips. And when I'm not inspired, I go into my library and just copy-paste some of those clips into Ableton, mess around with some plugins, and then I see what I can do with that. And the melody of this track was created exactly that way. But what I did is the melody split it in 4 tracks, because the performer has 4 separate synthesizer strips. So the whole melody is split into 4 tracks, which I then can modulate using all of the knobs of the performer, which is super nice. So I'm playing this melody now without the external effects. And after that, I'm going to explain what I use to get the sound a little richer. So this is the basic melody. So without the other sounds, of course. So this is now only Performer you're hearing. This is track number 1. Then you have track number 2. Then you have track number 3. And track number 4. So now that I have this nice melody, I can, of course, switch them partly on and off like this. Or like this. I did that a lot during the performance in the track. But what is even better is that I now can tweak each of these strips separated and give some sections of the track a completely different expression. But this whole thing is only half of the rant. What makes it super intense is the effects that I added. And in my first video, I had one insert effect per channel. For this track, I only have a delay and a reverb that is added to the sum output of the Vermona. And that gives it a super nice and sleek feeling. And it's a big sky that I'm using with a plate machine. And the plate machine has a pretty long reverb. I think the tail is 13 seconds long or so. And before the signal passes a Grand Canyon delay. And together that sounds like this. So now I'm adding the delay. It's not too much. The tail is not too long, because otherwise I figured out that the layering is a little too much and the notes get washed out. I didn't want that. And now comes the reverb. So it's super nice because if I open up the filter, the soundscape gets so rich. What I didn't do during the performance, but I planned to do that, but I didn't, is to also switch between the different oscillator waveforms. So let's say I switch to this one. Or I could make this longer. Add some release time to this one. Or add some glide. So you see, a lot of possibilities. I only use some of them during the performance in this track, but maybe I'm developing this further. And maybe I'm adding some more elements to this track, or maybe some other sequences or intros, whatever. And this will clearly be super fun. And together, it sounds like this. And what is super nice is, and I think the performer is really a synth made for me. That is my current feeling. One of my difficulties when I perform is that I sometimes overwhelmed by the possibilities of my synth. And the problem is that I don't see what I can do. I know which knob to turn to get a specific effect or a transition or opening a filter, whatever. But while performing, sometimes I just forget it because my head is so full of other stuff. And the performer made that super simple to create like transitions because I see everything that I do. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you want to watch the whole performance, it's linked, and also I link it down below. If you want to get informed about future updates, subscribe to my channel and activate the notification. And see you soon on my channel. Take care. Bye-bye.